This is a short video to discuss problems with doing watercolor. Watercolor for me is a bit challenging, and so I often end up with a picture I'm not happy with, and I really don't want to have to keep throwing them away, especially since I went out and got some better paper. This paper I got, it's not Arch, which is often the go-to, it seems, for artists. It's a different type, but it is cotton. It's 300 pound. It's cold pressed, and we can talk about what all that means at another time. I just want you to know that it's a paper that I paid a little more than what I would have at Walmart, so therefore I don't want to throw it away. I also used paints that were student grade and a little bit better, not top end, but better enough that I really did not want to throw them out. I also felt if I corrected my mistakes and forced myself to do it, maybe I'd be a little more conscientious in the first place to not make these mistakes to begin with. Now, if you're doing a watercolor, especially if you're on decent paper, and you just don't like one small area, it might be easier to wet it and try to lift it with a damp brush, or to design the painting in a way that you can incorporate that into the design, maybe even come up with something that you like even more. However, I didn't like any of this painting. The sky was so-so, but the rest of it just, I don't know what happened. I had a plan and it just went crazy. So I got the watercolor ground, which I saw a few artists were recommending to get, especially if you want to cover your whole painting area. This is made by Golden, which is a good quality company. Not the most expensive company, but a good quality company. I trust their products. And I ordered this online because it's not sold locally, and tried it out. I took several months to get brave enough to try it because I didn't feel confident in myself to do it. So today, all around noon, I decided to grab a brush, take my painting that I absolutely hated, and cover it with the ground. And so I commenced to smearing it on. It was kind of the thickness of like a thin sour cream, perhaps, or a very thin pudding. Not as heavy as gesso, which I use on acrylic sometimes and make a heck of a mess. But I took a brush and smeared it on. And what looked kind of smooth actually turned out, you can tell I used a brush. It has these little tiny ruts from the bristles. So that is like the second mistake. First was the painting, and then was the applying the watercolor ground. Also, I noticed while I was applying it, the more intense colors such as burnt sienna and yellow ochre were seeping through and couldn't really cover, at least on the first try. After several hours, I thought it looked kind of dry, so I touched it and it left a fingerprint. So, like the bottle says, leave it 24 to 72 hours. And the top is dry, but the underneath I can tell is not. So once I'm confident it's dry, instead of a brush, I'm going to use a sponge and try to apply another coat to eliminate the ruts, to cover the stain through from the paint, and hopefully make a nice surface that I can start over again. But that's the process so far. So from this, I hope you take away that if you're painting, to perhaps do your drawing or whatever first. I tried to wing it without the drawing, and I think that's where the problem came in. Because the elements weren't bad, it just the composition was horrible. If you're going to use a ground, well, read the instructions, but also know that you may want to test it on something smaller to get the feel of it and to see what happens when you're applying it with different things. Or have a reputable artist that you can consult. I could not find a lot about watercolor ground. Most of the artists don't seem to use it. But the few that did, I thought, wow, I could do that. Yeah, well, sort of. So I'm going to leave it there, and tomorrow hopefully I'll get the second coat and it'll dry enough that I can show you how successful the sponge that works and whether it covers everything. I'll see you tomorrow.